Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Powercast. We are back, we've returned, and we're here to recap Power Book 3 Raising Kanan Season 4, Episode 1. And the title of this episode is Gangsters Don't Die. And I'm joined today by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And we're also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
I'm doing so well. It's been 800 years since we last seen Kanan being raised. But we are back, and the show is better than ever. It feels like they never left. They took a break, or ate lunch, or went to the bathroom. They just continued on through. And so I salute the writers and the creators. Thank you.
Yeah, salute to the team, to stars, and everyone involved in the creation of Raising Kanan. And yeah, you are right. We waited like 800 years because it definitely felt that way. Because they advertised this show as winter, coming this winter, and that was like almost a year ago. Basically, like it was like summer 2024 or something. They said this winter, and it's like we're right at the bottom of the winter. Basically, it's like wow, it's damn near almost spring already. And yeah, we're just getting Raising Kanan back now. So yeah, that was a bit of a wait, but I kind of get it, I guess, because there's not they got rid of a show which is Ghost, and Force is on its last season. They haven't announced what's coming, next, or the replacement show or whatever. And the only other thing we know of is Raising Kanan season 5 and Origins. So I guess they have to space things out a little bit until Origins is ready. But yeah, go ahead, Dana. You wanted to say something?
And also remember, there were 20 different Hollywood strikes. You had the actor strike, the writer strike, director strike. You couldn't do anything because, it was just a strike. So even then, you had to wait a very long time. I remember, there were no interviews, no nothing that you could do. So even with that, they were able to pull it together. So I understand it is a long time to wait for a show. Back in my day, shows would just end in August and restart in September. But there are a lot of factors that even they couldn't control. So I'm understanding of what they went through, but please let's not do that again.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, you could say, well, at least we still got BMF, but you can't even say that anymore because we don't know what's going on with that show. 50's going on a warpath right now. I see today he's going at Joe Budden. he's just he's going in right now. So who knows what's happening with BMF?
So the real storyline of BMF should be who canceled Meech's party. What's going on?
Tammy Cohen's. That's what's going on. But Richard, you were going to say something.
I was going to say I don't know the status of BMF, but good riddance because I didn't like the last season. So there you go. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot I could say about that, but I think if I got the time, I'd do like a summary of the situation in another video. So look out for that soon. It's something I'm working on in the background. But yeah, that whole BMF thing is interesting. But at least we have Power, and I don't foresee any problems with the future of Power because this is 50's baby. And yeah, so I know we have a lot of power ahead of us, especially with Origins coming. So that's the good news. So yeah, Raising Kanan is back, and I for one feel like this is the best spin-off of all of them. So I'm excited. And yeah, before we get into our takeaways from this episode, just want to take a moment to give shout outs to all of the loyal listeners and everything, all the people who participate in the show and leave comments and like the video and share it and all that good stuff. Please do continue to interact with us with the show by leaving a comment, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and all that good stuff, because it does help us to keep going and keep doing the show. It does take a lot of our time and effort to put this show together and make sure it happens. Especially 3 different time zones and stuff. Well, you two are on the same time zone, but yeah, different time zone
3
with
different
me.
time zones,
And
2 countries.
yeah, 2 countries, and you two are in different states, so you got your own stuff going on and everything. So yeah, um, it takes a lot for us to get together and do this. So your support makes it all worth it. So thank you to all the people out there. I can't wait to see some of the regular faces coming back in the comments and everything and sharing their thoughts. And I will be replying to the comments and everything. So can't wait for that. But yeah, just a big shout outs to all the people who have supported us over the years. Big ups to you all. So let's get straight to the takeaways. And I will go first this time. So let me take it away. So the first thing I wanted to say is like the way they handled this episode by taking us back 3 months. Now that was a big risk for them to do that, because I'm sure there's going to be some people that say they're kind of rehashing stuff already, but as 50 said in the narration, I like that he pointed this out. Like he said, everything we're seeing happened already, and we just didn't peep all the details basically. So they took us back to add more context, and I do feel like it was necessary to do that, especially in the case of Unique. But yeah, it was necessary for them to kind of take us back just to kind of set things up for what we're going to see in the following episodes and the rest of the season and stuff. So I think although it was a risky move to do that, I think they did it pretty well. They did a good job of that. I noticed there was some like details that were a bit different in some of the scenes, like I'm pretty sure the famous song that he was rapping, they kind of like changed it, like it was remixed a little bit, like, and he was just saying streets need a body over and over. Like, so stuff like that, they kind of changed details. They added more context with Raquel and Howard and stuff, which was interesting. And then of course you had the whole her being pregnant as well. That was an interesting spin on things. And I like the little kind of thing they did with, oh, it's cracking and popping. Sorry, I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, but I like the little assignment they gave to Kanan, where he has to do uh he has to do the report on his family and stuff, and he chooses to do it on his grandpa, and then he has to kind of like ask his family you know about him and stuff, and like you get kind of a different response from each of them, from Raquel, Lou, and Marvin. And I like that their answers also kind of give more context for their characters as well. Yeah, like in the case of Marvin, and this is going to actually tie into my third takeaway, but in the case of Marvin, like it fills in a lot of the context of like him and like how he views the world and his anger, his inner anger and stuff, and the physicality, because we see him fight quite a lot. Like he's a very kind of violent character and stuff, and he needed anger management and all that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, like that was interesting to see. Um, and yeah, so my basically my first takeaway is I feel like it was a risk to kind of take us back in time, but I think they did a good job. So I'm going to move into my second takeaway now, because this is a big part of why they chose to take it back. Real quickly, has the mic crackling and popping improved at all? I just want to. It's still crackling and popping a lot. Like, is it to the point you can't hear me well?
Oh no, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna monitor that and see if I can fix it. But okay, so Unique's recovery was interesting. Um, and because I really was curious of how they would position his character in this season, um, because there has to be a reason why he's not just dead. Like why are you bringing the character back? Like they needed to really like show us like why. Okay, why is he back? What is he back to do? Like what is the purpose of him being back? And so I guess they brought him back to kind of be the main, either one of the main or the main antagonists of this season. And the last time we saw Unique, he was obviously like he was involved in um, a situationship with Raquel, and they kind of broke it off before he allegedly died, because he didn't really die, but yeah, they kind of broke it off. And Raquel had told him that she's getting out the game, and she's just not really into all that stuff. So the way they kind of spun it is that he's come back and he's trying to make sense of everything. And mind you, he has a head injury, and the doctor said that this is kind of like going to affect his behavior and everything, so he's not going to be the same. So he's trying to make sense of things. He has his friend there. I forgot his name, but his friend is kind of taking care of him and nursing him back to health. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Early Tyler. Early Tyler.
There you go.
Got to remember that name. That's very important.
Early Tyler, right? Yeah. So Early Tyler is helping him out, giving him a place to stay, nursing him back to health, and everything, um, which is good. So he has someone in his corner. So the way they kind of position this is that he finds out that Raquel is back in the game, and obviously his brother's dead now and everything. So well, this is before he finds out he's dead, but like basically he knows that Ronnie is working with Kanan at this point. So he, like, in his head, he makes the connection. Oh, Raquel wanted me out the way, because obviously if Kanan's working with Ronnie, that means that's her child. So they're all in this together, and they basically conspired against me. Kanan took me out and all that stuff. So that's the kind of logic he comes to in the situation. Um, Now this story, I'm curious how they're going to play this story out. Obviously, it does get a bit more complex when you add to it that Raquel was also pregnant, with his child, so that adds another whole layer to it. Obviously, he doesn't know that yet, but that's going to add a whole nother layer to the story. But I am interested to see how they play this out, because him him coming to that conclusion that Raquel conspired against him, it's something that can probably easily be cleared up. Because he makes the point, oh, she told me she was getting out the game and now she's back. So like he could just like get an explanation from her, or just go go see her. I mean, I get that he probably doesn't want to make it known that he's alive yet, probably, but it seems to me like this is something that could be cleared up, like so you have the full context of why she's back in the game and everything like that, like rather than just making the decision to go on a warpath and a rampage. But I guess how they'll explain it is that he's not in his right mind because of the injury and stuff. So I guess that's the leverage they have with that. I guess it's like he's not fully in his right mind. So he's gonna maybe be on a warpath. That's what they kind of suggest, with him wanting to hold the gun and everything like that. And you know, so yeah, I'm just curious to see how they take that whole thing. Like, is he really going to be the enemy the entire season, or is he going to try and at least confront Raquel and talk to her first, or is he just going to go straight for the jugular? That's what I want to kind of see. Um, And yeah, I want to see how the whole pregnancy angle plays out as well. And also, I'm wondering if he's gonna go and try and get back with Panessa, because she's still out there somewhere. So that's another connection he could kind of, go back and connect with. So yeah, I want to see what happens there. But yeah, interesting decision to bring Unique back, and yeah, I just want to see how all of this plays out this season. I'm not gonna try and overanalyze it just yet. I'm just gonna sit back and watch this one and see what happens because obviously there's a lot of other points of conflict out there. You have Snap and Pops and everything. You have Stefano and stuff. So I want to see how all the pieces kind of connect this season. But yeah, so moving on to my third takeaway. Uh, so Marvin, I find it interesting that he's out here doing GTA side missions for Stefano, basically. Um, and maybe I'm reading into this too much, but when Kanan was talking to Marvin about the grandfather and everything, Marvin mentioned a few times about how he was the oldest. He was the oldest of the siblings. He was looking out for Raquel and Lou and everything. Like that kind of came up at least a couple times in the conversation. Um, and Raquel is obviously the head of the family now. Despite him being the oldest. So Marvin getting closer with Stefano, it makes me think like, is there going to reach a point now where maybe he holds the keys, like where he is on the verge of being at the head of the table for the family. Now if it does come down to that, I do feel like Marvin probably wouldn't accept the role. I think he respects Raquel too much. I don't think he would like choose to double cross her or anything, but they do seem to be playing up with the fact that Raquel doesn't know that Marvin is so close to Stefano. Like it seems like that's where they're going with this. Like she doesn't know how close they are or that he's doing these things, for Stefano behind her back. So, it leads me to believe like there's going to be some point of conflict there. And then also in the trailer, I think there was a point where Kanan was actually talking to Stefano. So I want to see how that plays out. Like, does Marvin introduce him or something? Or I want to see how that happens. But yeah, just the way that he told that story to Kanan of him looking up to his dad and his dad being watching him box and basically beat people up, and he was proud, like because his dad's muscles were his muscles, his dad's wins were his wins, and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it just makes me think, and just the way he emphasized that he was the older sibling and he was looking out for Raquel and Lou. It just makes me think like there's probably going to be a point in this season where he has a chance at becoming the head of the family. But I don't think the Marvin we know, I don't think he's gonna accept that power. Like I don't think he'll want that, but I do think if he wants it, he can have it, but he just will choose not to have it, kind of thing. So yeah, I want to see if that's where they're going with his character. But yeah. And just quickly as well, it was interesting to see Jessica's return, and it makes me wonder if that's going to be like an escape route for Lou to go back to LA and be with Jessica. Like, could he end up maybe doing that at the end of the season or something? Like, maybe he'll take her up on her offer and move to LA and try and start his label and get in the show business and all that stuff. But yeah, it was interesting to see that character make a comeback because she's been away for a while. But yeah, those are my takeaways. And yeah, I'm going to now pass it over to Miss Dana Abercrombie. So Dana, when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways. You're still muted.
I'm still muted. I was saying I won the lottery. I won. I'm next. Yay. Okay. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I thought it was a fantastic episode to start off the new season and to, kind of give us a fresh approach. And also, as you were saying, dive deeper into the mindset of the characters. I initially thought, hey, this is kind of like a cheat episode in terms of like, you're not really, you're just repeating things we already saw. And then it kind of reminded me of, remember the original Power? When it was who killed Ghost, and we went through everyone's different day and their perspectives of things, and it was like, oh, okay, so we're just repeating. But no, this was for a purpose, this was for a reason, and I absolutely love this. And this, as you stated, will set the tone for Power going forward. And could also add a different perspective of people who join into the show. It's getting breezy, so you never know. That breeze is coming. Sorry. That will be my forever joke. Breeze is officially the Mephisto of the Powerverse. So, going on with my little tangent here, for me, my hugest takeaway was about the power of perspective. Because throughout the whole season 3, we always had kind of that one kind of perspective that had followed, that one take of what was going on. And for this episode, they really kind of switched the game around by showing us what we thought happened with what really happened. So, as we know, the finale ended with Howard being murdered by Raquel, and before that, Kanan killed Ronnie. For some strange reason, I'm old. The show has been off the air for so long. I thought it was Unique that killed Ronnie, but that is not what happened. It was Kanan who killed Ronnie. And going by that perspective, we knew exactly what was going on. We knew that Ronnie was going to be a larger threat. He had killed Unique, and he was coming after both Raquel, and he was using Kanan. And using Kanan to the point where Kanan didn't have any control. No one could really control Ronnie, which is why I always and also still believe that they killed him off a little bit too early. But I understand where they're going with the season. But my gosh, if we could have just got some more Ronnie scenes, more than what we got, I would have been like, yay. But we didn't. I wish we did. So you lose 1 point for that. But the whole point that I'm trying to say is we had that perspective, and we knew why they wanted both Howard and, well, obviously Raquel wanted Howard dead. We saw that, Kanan had no parts in that whatsoever. And that shocked face that we have now gives us more of a perspective as to why he had that shocked face. This episode really dived into what could have been the relationship between Howard and Kanan. He really wanted to, you kind of saw that dimension. He had to do a research paper or he would be kicked out of fail the class, and therefore he would be in violation of his, what'd you call it? I forgot what you would call it, family court decision, where he would be going to foster care and no longer in the custody of his mama if he didn't, pull up his bootstraps and strap into class and write this research paper. And the whole goal for the paper was to write a research paper on your grandparents. He tried to BS and say, everyone's dead. What are you talking about? And Raquel was like, no, everyone's alive. They're doing well. They're happy. So, you kind of saw her finally being that mother. Well, not finally, because she always has been that mother, but you saw her using the power of the mother to keep him straight. And by learning more about the grandfather, well, he initially went to Howard and asked, how are your grandparents? Which was like, made me think, I never thought of that before. Howard was so closed off and even disgusted by the fact that he would have to talk about his parents to Kanan. But he was like, hey, we're not going to do this, but I want us to get to know each other. I want us to, have a conversation where we see each other as maybe one day down the line as family. And we know that that never took place. We know that that will never happen because he's dead. But to see how that conversation kind of warmed his nibbly bits a little bit, like, oh, okay, I may have an in. I may have someone, another male presence who is going to maybe be there for me. And so when you go back to the scene of Raquel killing Howard, that shock face was not just a surprise, but for me also represented a tad bit of hurt, a tad bit of anger. You did this in one, you didn't even tell me, but we were about to form a relationship. And you took that away from me without my knowledge. So it gave another perspective to that scene. One of the biggest obvious perspectives was the arrival of Ronnie. We know that Ronnie was alive at the very end of the finale, where we were like, oh my God! But the whole thing was, what happened? Where did he come from? Why is he entering into the picture now? And now we understand why. Ronnie, 3 months ago, was technically, when he was beaten what we thought was to death, it was only half to death. So he called up early, the name of the character, not early as in early in the morning. He called up early and was like, hey, you have to come get me. You are my protector, which he did a terrible job at protecting. Is it like, I'm going to only hire you for this moment in security? Or is he supposed to be like the overall security? Because early just wasn't there. He wasn't early, he wasn't late, he wasn't on time, he just wasn't there at all. So anyway, the fact that they introduced Chris Redd as early, I truly loved his performance, because I've spoken to Chris Redd. I've did an interview with him about a Netflix show where he's hosting about redesigning cars. And to see him as like regular Chris Redd, speaking, and then to look at him as early, the dialect change, the mood change, I'm like, yes, he's acting. You go, actor. Instead of telling jokes, you in there, getting your acting on. And I love when we can see different sides of people that we've never seen before. And even though this is not like, an Oscar-winning performance, I just love the fact that we get to see acting. Anyway, so with this, we do know that he was nursed back to health and also helped by a veterinarian, which is like the go-to mechanism for people who can't go to the hospital. It's always the veterinarian. He'll give you a little horse tranquilizer, and it'll work all out. So I love that. But with this situation, he gave, as you guys stated, a little bit of warning. He said he has to go to the hospital. He's not going to go. But people with that kind of brain injury, which we know from the previous season, that left brain fragments, skull fragments onto the bat, of which or the blunt object. I forgot what he was beaten with. Maybe it was a pipe. The point is, it left fragments, skull fragments. So we know Pookie is missing some skulls in there. The brain is a little mushy, maybe a little Swiss cheesy from just being beaten in. And as a result of that, that is where we have behavioral changes. And I thought it was really interesting that they mentioned that right up front to let us know we're going to see a different Unique than we've seen before. We're going to see a more dangerous Unique. And that made me question whether or not this dangerous new Unique is something that always lived inside Unique, or is just a I don't even know how to pronounce the word, exacerbated version of that. So that is like the question of the day is this always, oh, see, I'm interviewing Unique, I'll just ask him that. Yay, Joey. So point I'm saying is this. Because of that, we're seeing not that side of him come out truly, but we're seeing him being more observant. And that was with the help of Early, who was like, hey, I know you want to go out in the streets and tell everyone you're alive, but this is an opportunity that you really should take to lay in the cut. People think that you're already dead. Just get the lay of the land. Understand what's going on. Because if someone was trying to take you out, why were they trying to take you out? It's like, oh, it's my brother. I know that because we saw the tussle and the bustle. But there should be a reason as behind that. And from a perspective, when you don't have all of the information, it appeared that, and this was his explanation, was that Kanan was working with Ronnie, who was also working with his mother back again, in order for both of them to knock both Joey out. And by when we saw the scene where Ronnie was murdered, oh, y'all killed Ronnie so y'all could just take everything. So the whole purpose and the goal was to take out both brothers, so now you rule the streets. We know that that's not what really happened. But to him, he doesn't know that. And so by going with pieces of information or information you thought you knew, this changes the entire movement of Unique and how he'll treat Kanan and Raquel going forward. We saw a scene that we've never seen before in the previous show, which was him trying to kill Lou. Remember when Lou came out of the bar and he was all and like this, and we were all sad because, oh no, alcoholism. Unique was waiting in the corner in the shadows. Obviously, we didn't see that because that wasn't Lou's perspective. But he was lurking in the corner with the gun in the hand, saying, I'm going to just take out this whole family. He didn't get the opportunity to do that because of the lovely bar maiden, whose name I cannot remember, but she always has great style and grace. So anyway, because of her, he was rescued. But this plants the seed in saying Unique is willing to take out anybody. And Unique is more than willing to take out Raquel, Kanan, Lou. Who's to say Marvin's even safe? So while everyone has their own individual things to worry about, and yes, pops and snaps are in the corner, and as they stated before, we're going to go to war, you now have an enemy you cannot see because you do not know exist. So I absolutely love that. I was here for it. Yay. And I think he's an even more bigger threat than pops and snaps because you expect them to come. You don't expect a dead man to come at your door. I love it. Give me more. Give me a whole season. I'm for it. So going back here a little bit with my notes, we did see, and I'm going to probably overlap with what Gary said, was the whole Marvin situationship. And going back to what he gave in his perspective of how he saw his father. Now, it's interesting how everyone saw their father differently, which I'm sure doesn't matter who your father is, you're going to see them differently than other people see them. Or the wife will see them differently than children. The aunt, their own parents will see them differently. And it is that perspective of what we think that we know or see of a person that trickles down into our lives and shapes how we move and operate. You mentioned before how Marvin was carrying so much anger. And he stated, I carried anger. He had to stop being a child and become a parent. He had to raise Raquel and Lou while he was a child. A child shouldn't be able to do that. A child should be a child. But because of that, he became angry. It was infested, which is why when we saw him striking out and having those anger issues, it wasn't just because I'm an angry person. It's because of what has been passed down, that trauma of his father leaving him. And I love that they showed that. And it gives more perspective of a character that you know is going to be dead anyway, soon. Because I'm sorry, Marvin and Lulu has to go. Somebody has to go this season. Anyway. So I love that they gave that. And I love how we saw Marvin, to me, wanted to be someone that you looked up to. And you wasn't able to fully do that because Raquel was so heavy-handed. Remember how she had both her brothers by the little balls just dangling and wingling and she was squeezing them to death? That's the reason why Lulu was sitting around there trying to commit suicide in the finale. That's the reason why Marvin, he had to ship up and shape right, or he was like, I think Raquel might kill me. So he wasn't able to be his own person, I feel. And by him joining with Stefano, that little, hey, I got a little favor. I don't want you to kill anybody, but I have a favor. Don't tell Raquel. That right there, the don't tell Raquel, that made him feel tingly inside because he's able to find trust in someone and live his life separately from Raquel. And I do feel, kind of jumping on what Gary said, that there could be a relationship between Stefano and Marvin down the line. Remember, Stefano can't always step into everything. He, like Unique, has to move in the shadows because the godfathers of the Italian mob, they have so many rules and regulations, even though you're like, but you're kind of decrepit. So I love that. It gives a whole different perspective and another balance to a character, Stefano, which could easily be viewed as a throwaway. But it also helps Marvin in his goal of independence. So that perspective I absolutely love. And then going by Lulu, we already knew through Lulu that his father was a saxophonist. He said played the horn. I don't know which horn it would be. Trumpet, saxophone. There's too many things you blow on. Pause. But the whole reason that the way how he interpreted his father is that he saw himself in his father. And everyone was like, either dad is a loser or, dad had issues, dad really loved us, or everything was muddled and confused. But for him, he saw himself in his father, which you can explain or see the comparisons of the alcoholism that takes out both. Not to say that Lulu is dead at this point. Maybe he will die. Someone has to die this season. I'm okay with both brothers. What I'm simply saying is that you see him follow in the footsteps of his father, whether or not it's intentional or unintentional. Sorry. So I really do love how that played off, and you really saw he's kind of explaining how music, saved his life. And to go off of what Gary said, when that lady showed up, I was like, sir, please pack your bags and go to California. There is nothing for you in New York City aside from death and your sister, which is also just another form of death. Kanan is going to grow up to be a psychopath. Jukebox, we know, ends up becoming crazier than Kanan. We don't know what's going to happen with Marvin because please, a brother has to die. I'm okay with him dying. He's probably dead. Raquel, we don't know, is either dead or ends up in jail, but you have the opportunity through your music to be the brother that makes it. But the only way that you can make it is that you never return again. And I'm okay with that. Go find your happiness with this. I don't think she's a white lady. Maybe she's a little Latina. But go find your happiness with her and play your music and find other artists and build up, I don't know, Death Row Records of the 90s. It'll work out. So for me, I kind of reiterating what I stated. I loved kind of what this episode brought. I love the different perspectives. I even love the fact that we got Grammy. Grammy got kidney cancer to kidney. That just made me really sad about little Gran. But you know what? Even by having grandma into this, and I'll wrap it up real quickly, Kanan was able to breathe because grandma didn't come with any kind of intentions, any type of judgment. She said, I'm going to love you, baby, no matter what. And that is what the goal of a grandparent is. They are that support system that makes you feel extra seen, especially sometimes when when you're not able to be seen by your actual parents. So I love that. I love how she just spoiled him with love, and I'm happy to see you, and I'm not going to judge you, and let's just talk. And you kind of saw, him open up and Kanan get another side to understanding who his family is, which then showcases and kind of gives us a little bit of a blueprint as to where Kanan is coming from. This is something that you can't argue whether or not he can escape. And that goes into the whole, is this an environmental situation, or is this really who the person was really meant to be? Because Kanan's grandfather was a drug dealer. His father was a drug dealer. The guy who he thought was his father was a drug dealer. No, Howard wasn't a drug dealer, but he was just very dirty. But still, the fact that they don't like cops, that just adds to another layer. And remember how Howard was saying, are you sure you want to be seen with me? Because, they're going to come after you. You're supposed to be the son of a drug dealer. So if you keep telling someone you're supposed to be a son of a drug dealer, what do they end up behaving as? The son of a drug dealer. So it was just little tiny nuances and little sprinkleizations that I absolutely loved about this episode. And I've been talking for way too long, so I'm going to shut up now. And Richard, it is your turn.
Oh no. So first and foremost, excellent takeaways by Dana and Gary as always. Let me start by saying I thought this was a great episode of Raise Kanan. It perfectly set the tone for what we can expect this season. And again, I like the fact that it was 3 months later. We got the aftermath of the Ronnie beatdown of Unique. So, yeah, I thought it started off at a very good point in showing us as far as the other perspectives of what really happened. So I'm going to go into a couple of takeaways I have. Like again, I think that Gary and Dana really nailed a lot of great points. There are a few things I do want to mention, though. So first and foremost, my first takeaway, let's talk about Unique. Okay. Shout out to Joey Badass. He is a phenomenal actor and a phenomenal musician as well, rapper. I'm glad to see that he is still a part of the show. Obviously, the character he's playing this season is going to be completely different from the character that he's been playing on this show. And that actually, going back to the trailer breakdown that myself and Dana did, I did mention that, one thing that I wanted to acknowledge is that Unique, he had a lot of charm and wit, a very likable character on the show. All right. So I'm very curious and interested to see Joey Badass now become just a very vicious character who I personally think is going to take out some characters that we love on the show And I do want to see what the perspective of those fans will be when they see this, because I mean, a lot of people didn't want to see Unique get killed, as we thought he got killed last season. So I'm very curious to see if he does take out a Marvin character, for example, how people are going to feel about that, because everyone loves Marvin as a character. So I just want to brace people, because again, like Dana said earlier, they emphasize the point that the multiple personalities that he has, all the head trauma, this is obviously, and the doctor said to Early Tyler multiple times, this guy needs to see a real doctor, because this is not gonna end well. So they told us that, you know, and obviously we saw Unique the whole time. Like I said, he still wanted to get back out there. He wanted to get back at Ronnie. And then of course, Early Tyler is the one that convinced him, no, right now you're invisible. You know, this is your superpower. So you need to use that to your advantage. And he did tell Early Tyler to do recon for him to find out some information. And when Early Tyler came back, he started to put stuff together as to what he thought happened, the fact of who he thought was behind this, that him thinking that Raquel and the entire Thomas family, they had planned this whole thing to take down him and his brother. And of course, you know, he obviously wants revenge. Now, I will say this, the scene where Early Tyler handed him the gun, I'm sure I can't be the only one that thought, is he going to shoot Early Tyler? Because the way he had that gun, like he was, pointing out that way, I'm like, uh-oh. Obviously, that could happen later, right?
I thought that too.
Oh, you did think that? Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that can obviously happen later because, again, this guy is a complete psychopath now. Obviously, he wants revenge. Raquel is the one he wants to go after. But I just think they're really going to have to do some things to emphasize that this character has reached a point of no return. And I do also want to say, to the point that Dana made, we do question if the character ever had that killer instinct within him, because anytime we just seen Unique as a character, he's just very cool, reserved, obviously a bad guy, but you like him because he is cool and he has the swagger. So now that he doesn't have that, obviously he's going to be a lot more vicious. I know he wanted to reunite with Panessa and his child. I'll be very curious to see if that happens, when that happens. I think they will be scared to go near him because of how he looks. So we're definitely going to see the character, obviously you're going to see a much more violent version of Unique, but I also think you're going to also see him struggle with this stuff as well, because it's not going to go back to the way it was. Now it's just all out war, as in his mind, against Raquel. And I'm very curious to see where they go with that. And the last point I will make about this, and yeah, to go to the point that Dana made, yeah, I'm glad they showed the perspective of him trying to take out Lou, because that adds a lot more context to the fact that he does not care. He will go after anybody. You saw him in the car. He was watching Ronnie when Ronnie was leaving. I mean, yeah. So this guy, I look forward to seeing what he does in this role. It's going to be very interesting. So stay tuned for that. My second takeaway of this episode, and again, I'm going to go on the same point that both Dana and Gary mentioned about Kanan. I like the way they set up Kanan in this episode, making it so that he had to write that paper about his grandfather. And I like the fact that Kanan went to everybody to talk to. Obviously, he went to Marvin, and Marvin was talking about how, he went to Marvin, he went to Lou. He didn't go to Raquel. Raquel asked him, obviously, and I laughed because I was like, I already knew Kanan wasn't going to talk to his mom about that, because his relationship with his mom is fractured right now. But he also spoke to his grandma. And the thing about that I do want to highlight that I think is very important, right? Obviously, his grandmother does tell him that she has kidney cancer, but she tells him to keep it a secret. I really want to emphasize, you really have to think about this, because this is important. Because when we talk about what happened with Raquel in this episode and the fact that she was pregnant and she got an abortion, she also told Jukebox, keep this a secret between us. This goes to the grave. This entire episode was about people keeping secrets. You could say the same thing about Marvin, the fact that he is secretly working with Stefano behind Raquel's back. And I do have something I'll say about that later. But I just think it's very important, because that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody to tell them to keep a secret. In the case of Kanan, that's a heavy pressure to put on him, because we know how the grandmother's relationship is with the kids, right? And now you're putting him in a situation where you're telling him you know your health is not in good, your health is bad, So while I do expect this season to be very violent, I also expect it to be very emotional, because pretty sure something will happen to the grandmother at some point this season. And of course, Kanan is the only one that knows this. And obviously, when Raquel and the others find out, they'll probably be a bit heartbroken, especially Raquel, right? Because her relationship with her mom was always up and down from what we've seen in this show. So I do want to see where they go with that. In the same token with Jukebox as well, obviously she said that she was not going to tell Raquel's secret about being pregnant with Unique's baby, but even with Raquel herself, she was questioning whether or not she loved Unique. So again, it's going to be a very emotional season when a lot of stuff goes down. I do expect there to be some casualties, as Gary's name alludes to, casualties of war. But it's going to be a lot to take in. So I definitely want people to get ready for what is going to be an emotional, but also an exciting season for sure. And the last takeaway I want to go to here is about Marvin. I think that both Dana and Gary made some excellent points about Marvin. I think it's interesting that he is working with Stefano. I will say I am concerned about him working with Stefano in the way he approached that situation. Obviously, because Stefano has a daughter and her husband has been cheating on her. Okay. The way he approached those guys in the very beginning, where they were standing outside and there was multiple guys, and obviously that guy who he had the interaction with, the husband, this guy is a punk, right? When he's by himself, though, he's really a punk. But when he's with his crew, he thinks he's big and bad. So I don't think that situation is over with. Obviously, Stefano told him to talk to him in this episode and set him straight. And of course, by the end of the episode, you're like, okay, that's fine. But that guy is racist. That guy has some issues with Marvin. So I don't think that this situation is over with. And I do want to see where that goes. Would Marvin go to the lengths of trying to kill that guy? Remember, that husband is a made man. So that sets up Marvin to have it's going to be a very interesting season for him, but I think as fans of Marvin, we should be concerned. And this goes to the last point that I do want to make. I think what Dana and Gary said about the way Marvin described his father and his relationship with his father was important. But I also think it's important because of the simple fact that I personally believe Marvin could end up becoming his father in the fact of him leaving behind Jukebox. And what I'm saying is that if Marvin is killed, he doesn't get a chance to say goodbye to Jukebox. Well, I can see that happening. I think that a lot of stuff that when they had the conversation and they asked the perspective of Lou and Marvin and how they felt about their father, they can very much become him as well based on their actions by certain stuff that they're doing. But in the case of Marvin specifically, because again, he's now involved with Stefano, we're doing this side job. And again, that husband is a made man. So that is a problem. That is a problem. You can't just approach this as this is just any old person I can get rid of. I think there's going to be consequences for that. So I do want to see what happens. But obviously, we're going to have to see where things go. We do know that Jukebox in this episode is wrestling with the idea of joining the army. And obviously, she's still in Butter. But we know what happens with Butter at the end of last season. So I do want to see what happens with that character moving forward. But they are setting her up to obviously go through a lot of changes this season. So we have to see where they go. But overall, I thought this was an excellent episode. I am so glad to have this show back on TV, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Oh, yeah. Excellent takeaways from both of you. That was an interesting point as well about, how Marvin's relationship with Jukebox might be affected as well, and how that relates to the story he told about his father and stuff. So yeah, that's a good observation there. But yeah, you both had really good points in your takeaways. I agree with a lot of what Dana was saying. We kind of saw things very similarly with Marvin and his story and stuff. So yeah, good stuff. So let's get to a few discussion points now. The before we end off. So yeah, like we all mentioned, this episode focuses heavily on Unique and how he was able to like survive. Obviously, early Tyler was a big part of that and a big part of his recovery and everything. We've acknowledged that Unique is a bit off now. So, he's not in his right mind anymore. His brain's kind of, been turned to mush a little bit. So I want to ask you both, like, what's next for this character? Like, what do you really see him doing, this season? Do you have any kind of predictions for the character, or do you foresee any kind of pathway for him and how he's going to interact with, the rest of the cast? Now, we know that there was that leaked photo that I think came out last year where he was outside of Kanan's apartment. So we might see some interaction there between him and Kanan. And of course, Kanan worked closely with Ronnie and everything. So Unique might decide to, he might just decide to pay Kanan a visit at some point to see what's really going on, especially because in this episode, he did mention that he believes Kanan told Ronnie to take him out on Raquel's behalf, but he believes that Kanan was the one to tell Ronnie to do that. So yeah, like what do you guys think is really going to happen with Unique? And because we haven't actually seen a whole lot of scenes with Kanan and Unique throughout the series, so it's going to be interesting when they come face to face, because the two characters have been mostly separated, and Unique's like he had a lot of like moments really with Raquel, and also he was at war with Raquel in the first season, and then they kind of got close after that. So what do you foresee happening this time? How is this going to be different from the first war between these characters and stuff? So go ahead, Dana. I think you got something to say.
I just want to say that this is the Unique that I have always wanted since season 1. My biggest complaint with Unique, great actor, yay Joey, was the fact that he was not hard hitting. His brother wasn't wrong about what he said. He's too soft. He doesn't know how to use people. He doesn't know how to observe the streets. He doesn't know how to interact with people to make them fear him. They laugh at him. Snap, what was it? Pop, Snackle, Crack, whatever their names are. Remember, the whole thing was they kind of didn't view him as someone serious. But who did they fear? Who did the whole streets was like, nah, we don't mess with him? Ronnie. And I think we're finally going to get the the Unique that I have always wanted since season 1. He was too nice, too friendly. He was someone who was more of a pacifist than an aggressor. And I think that this is what we're going to finally get. We're going to get someone, and also with the help of whatchamacface Early, who is just there for his money. I see Early not making it this entire season, because one day he's going to just jump up and annoy Unique like, give my money. I want my money. And he just going to be like, he said, oh, I'm going to pay my debt. So it's going to be like, here's your money. And then boom, you're dead. I paid you. Technically, I just killed you afterwards. So like, boom. And he's getting on my nerves too, because it's like every 5 seconds, where's my money? Like, I understand that you want your money, but patience. How are you telling him to be patient and you yourself is not patient? What bills do you have to pay right now at this moment when you need all this money? So all I have to say is I am very excited for this, because, and I hope like Ronnie's like, yeah, smiling up from Mel. Yep, there goes my brother that I always wanted. Because I really feel that if we had this Unique from day 1, the entire show would have been different. Raquel, we do know, is a beast, but she always had an ally. What then happens when your ally is now turned against you? We've seen that before, but again, going back, you don't know that ally existed. You don't know that he existed, and he's going against you. And the fact that when we saw the picture that they leaked, again, changed perspective, because it was like, oh my God, they're going to work together, and he's going to mentor him, and it's going to be all great and lovely and cozy. Yay! And then you get the family. You're like, oh, it's gonna be all great, cozy. She's pregnant with the baby, and you got Kanan. No, because Mine Unique, my 2.1 or 2.0 Unique. I'm going to call him 2.1 because this is the version that we should have got from the first episode. Anyway, this is the Unique that is going to manipulate the holy hell out of Kanan. I love it. So he's going to think, oh my God, you're alive. Oh, this is great. It's going to be wonderful. Meanwhile, Kanan, because again, Kanan is young. He doesn't have all of the perspectives and the things that life gives you. The frontal cortex is not fully developed yet. That he's going to be like, oh, let me tell you what's really going on with Raquel. Let me tell you what's going on with this business. And remember, Unique thinks that, maybe what he's telling me is lies the whole time. But the point that could be true is the fact that I just know that you really wanted to kill me because of your mama. So he's going to use his son to manipulate him. To manipulate not just him, but Raquel. And I think one of the most important foreshadowing conversations that we had was between Raquel and Kanan. Kanan was all like, I'm not speaking to you. Don't tell me about my grandmother or my grandpapa. I don't want to know nobody about you. But remember what she said? She said, I will love you no matter what. Even if you hate me, I will love you. So even if he works for Unique, knows that Unique is alive, but never tells Raquel, I still love you. This can be her downfall. Her son could be her downfall. And by downfall, again, I'm not necessarily meaning she is going to die. We do not know because remember in the original Power, I went to go see moms today. Oh, is she alive? Is she in the graveyard? We still don't know, but he is still an important part of her life. So I feel that either this season or the next season, something regretful is going to happen. Could be. You could make that argument. Something regretful is going to happen where he carries that love for his mother and he realizes that it was too late. All that angerment that he had was for nothing. And that relationship where he's like, I love you, Mom, and he finally says it, it's too late. So that's just a theory that I'm just throwing out there. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's interesting. If Kanan starts working with or for Unique, that would be interesting. It might be a bit of a continuation of the Ronnie thing, but I could see the parallel with that because it's like, Ronnie wanted Unique to step up and be this person, and now after he's kind of like, almost killed him, beaten kind of some sense into his brain, I guess. Now he's that person he wants to he wanted him to be, and now Ronnie's dead, so it's like there's a bit of irony in that if that's the direction that they choose to go. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I am very curious of what is going to happen when those two characters interact, though. Very curious to see that. And that was funny. You mentioned, Ronnie's in hell now. But I do believe if Ronnie's in hell, he probably already has the devil selling crack for him. So because Ronnie's just that kind of guy, he's that serious. So. But Richard, what's your thoughts on Unique being back?
All right, so I do want to disagree with one thing that Gary said. He said that Unique is off a little bit. Gary, Unique is more alive than he's ever been. That's what he told us in this episode, right? So this brother is absolutely crazy. Yes, he's crazy. I'm looking forward to it. I agree with everything Dana said. I mean, we definitely needed to see a more vicious Unique that wasn't being taken advantage of and is in full control of what he's doing. Obviously, he has the story twisted on what, as far as people trying to take him out. That's all twisted. That was between him and Ronnie, obviously. So now it's going to be very interesting to see when he does interact and come into play with Raquel. We know when we got when Dana and I did the breakdown of the trailer, it did mention that Unique is going on a warpath, a violent warpath. So yes, there will be bodies dropping throughout this season. I don't know who all will be dropped, but very interesting way he made the point when he said all debts will be paid. We know that Unique worked with Stefano. He worked with pretty much everybody to some extent. So I think that not only does he see Raquel as an enemy, but maybe every single individual that is working with Raquel as an enemy. So I expect him, like in the trailer, they had this shot of all the places getting shot up, getting revisited. I wouldn't be surprised if Unique is behind that. But we have to wait and see, obviously. But I just think it's going to be a very interesting to see this back and forth between him and Raquel. And I don't think that you will see them come face to face until maybe the end of the season. This can probably go on for quite some time, or maybe the mid-season finale or something to that extent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Gary. This is going to be a very exciting transformation for Joey Badass as an actor. Because again, like I said earlier, everybody loved this character from before he had this before he got whooped by Ronnie. Now he's going to be a completely different individual. So I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can't wait to see the direction. But Dana, you had a follow-up on that. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up because you mentioned Stefano in the trailer. Remember, Stefano had a whole line that they dedicated to. And it says, you want people to see you as you got to let them know who you are. Famous last words. And then we heard a gunshot. And that gunshot, the way at least how it was edited, was not by Kanan. It wasn't by Raquel. It wasn't by Lulu or Marvin. It was edited to look like it was by Unique. So, Warpath, famous last words. Oh, and then also, side note, shout out to Famous and his little remix of The Streets Need a Body. That's good. You see how the progression of music that has worked when you work with somebody and you give them that mentorship and that tutelage. It was such a better song than we saw in an episode of season 1. So you go Famous. He might be in a jail soon, but you go Famous.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Richard.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Famous, yeah. We'll see what happens. No, I agree. The last point I was going to make is to go back to that trailer also. Raquel did mention that she doesn't know if she can trust working with people. And they emphasize in that trailer that it's about Kanan's rise to glory. So my guess is that she's also referring to Kanan. Like Dana said earlier, she said that she will always love Kanan, but when it comes to a working relationship now, how is that going to work out? And I think that Kanan, obviously, we know he still doesn't like his mom. He doesn't like working with his mom. He has his own ideas as far as what he wants to do in the drug game. So they're going to definitely clash heads if they work together, which I'm pretty sure that will happen. But we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead, Dana.
And kind of to bounce back off of this, what you said is it's one thing to not to be able to trust my son. I can live with that, but I have to be able to trust my business partners. And you saw that he was collecting money and things. But the thing was, go back to what we saw in that leaked photo of him hanging out with Unique. I don't think Raquel knows. And that's a secret. Going back with this whole episode, everybody is keeping a secret. And the fact that he is not telling her, I can't trust my business partner. This is how I feel we'll get that split. I don't think it'll be like, oh, I have to kill you and there's death. I think it's because I cannot trust you. I will forever love you. I don't have to like you, but I'm definitely not going to trust you. And therefore, that's where we see the split between Kanan and whatchamacallit, his mama, Raquel.
I agree 100%. Gary, a quick question. You have something else to say about Marvin later, right? Because I do have a comment to make about Marvin. I don't know if I should make that now or later.
Yeah, go ahead and make it now. Yeah, because
let me go ahead and make this since Dana was talking about the whole trust thing. When I made the comment earlier that Marvin is secretly working behind Raquel's back, right? Remember what happened in this episode when Raquel got free and clear from the cops. And the lawyer told her, okay, the cops are no longer on your trail. Just stay clean. Just stay out of business. This is why I say she doesn't know what Marvin's doing. That could come back and hurt the family later. And that is also tied to what happened last season, because you remember when the whole thing was about before she decided to take out Howard was telling Raquel, hey, your brother is behind this. We need to do something about that situation. Maybe he's the one that needs to do the time. And Raquel wouldn't give up her brother. So it makes you wonder, if something happens, would she be forced to give him up? And that's why I said because again, it's a secret. It's a secret. She doesn't know that he's working with Stefano. So I think they're going to play around with that a little bit this season. But let's see where things go.
To just piggyback off of that, remember Famous was interrogated by the cops for the murder. Remember the gun, the dumb mama and put the gun, gave it back to the police officer, and that's why they was able to trace that there was a murder on that gun.
Oh yeah.
Remember what the cops said? All you have to say, this wasn't yours. This was Marvin. Who's Marvin?
Mm-hmm.
No, was Howard and Marvin. Remember the connection between Howard and Marvin? And he's like, what's that? And he was hysterical, and Mom was like, do it, baby. You didn't do nothing wrong. So, yeah, Marvin is in the doo-doo, which is why he got to go. Which then, boom, is why Unique ends up going to somebody's army or Navy or Marines or something. Because the white man was like, remember the white man was like, it's racist. And I think that, yes, we get that, which is why she's able, remember when she turns evil and that very first appearance that we see her as? And we see it basically is like, in order to change the streets, you have to be a part of that institution. And remember that institution, how they view Black people? And I think that conversation is what spearheads her into what we see in the future and how she really views authority and racism within authority. It's a jigsaw that they just put all the puzzle pieces together will make you think, and you gotta watch the yay writers. Yay! Okay, I'm done.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of connective tissue in this show. That's what I like about Raising Kanan. It's like everything, is a layered piece. Like, so that's what I love about it. But that is a great point that you both made, Richard, because I didn't even think about that, about how this could tie back to the fact that Marvin was a wanted man basically in the last season. Like he was really kind of bound up by that case, and he could have easily gone to jail, and now he's actually still out there doing dirt for Stefano, it seems, and I'm guessing it's only going to escalate, and he's going to do more stuff for him. And to Raquel's knowledge, he's kind of lying low right now, and keeping out of trouble. So yeah, that is going to be a big deal. If Raquel should find out that Marvin's still doing dirt, and let's say he gets into trouble and it blows up everything with the family and the drug business, she will absolutely tell him that you've got to take the fall for this, because this is your mistake. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But yeah, good points. Go ahead, Dana.
Wait, thought that just farted into my brain. Just saying, hypothetically, we already know that Lulu wants to die, right? And that didn't change, really. We saw different, like, oh, you give me hope. But the underall thing is he kind of wanted to die. And we saw that with the whole suicide, right? What if he decides to take the fall for Marvin?
Oh, I don't know what happened there. I took myself
So sorry
out.
about that. Yeah, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Richard took me out. Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting. I forgot what I was going to say now, but yeah, good point though. Richard, any follow up?
No, I agree. That is a very good point. That could certainly happen. That could certainly happen. Last season, Marvin did look out for Lou. The entire season, he was the one that had his brother's back. So, and that also will be emotional if Lulu does eventually sacrifice himself for his brother and his sister. That would be pretty sad to see that, but that could definitely happen.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, like Lou choosing to take the fall, because we're like, out of all the characters, it's like his story kind of like, it's hard to predict, the most, because it's like his story, it kind of feels like it's not parallel to the rest of the stories. Like his story doesn't have like as big a stake as everyone else's, it feels like. and he's just kind of like doing his own thing, and he has his own kind of path. So I could definitely see him being the character that would kind of like sacrifice himself for another character, um, in some way. So yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, so next discussion point I wanted to get to before we end off, like, so the whole thing with Raquel being pregnant and then, you know, going through the abortion process, and you know, she was very like, she did it with a lot of strength and grace, because it's like, you know, even when the therapist kind of checked up on her, she was just like, you know, I don't have time to be depressed or anything. Like, this is just, it is what it is, you know. This is just what I do. Um, Obviously, I feel like it's a lot deeper than that. There's probably more going on inside with her psychologically, but you know, she kind of just takes it in stride a little bit. But yeah, this whole pregnancy and abortion thing, it happened for a reason. Now, obviously, it adds to the unique story a little bit. Um, but you know, I think it's also important that she didn't tell anyone except Jukebox. Now, Jukebox, she at the moment she seems like a kind of, you know, she's an honorable character, and I don't think she would, you know, tell anybody, like, unless there was a real valid reason to tell anyone. So I'm just curious how this story is going to, you know, kind of play out. How does this abortion get brought back up? You know, because Jukebox, you know, I kind of feel like she wouldn't break the, you know, the whole the woman code, if you will. I don't think that's something she would share with somebody else, unless it was a situation where she really had to, like a life or death kind of situation. I don't think she would, you know, willingly mention it. But yeah, how do you see this story with the abortion playing out? And you know, because I don't even foresee how Unique could find out unless he's, you know, told or something. Like, so how do you see that playing out? Do you have any idea of how this might actually come back into the story? So I'll go to you first, Richard. What do you
Well,
think?
first and foremost, I think Dana answered this question. I don't know about the rest of the season, but I think it served its purpose for this episode. I say that because when she was talking to the doctor, she made mention that this wasn't the first time she's gotten an abortion, and that is because she probably got it when she was with Howard. And then you saw, like Dana mentioned, her killing Howard. This add context to that because it probably brought back all those feelings and all the stuff that she went through. But in addition to all the other stuff with Howard, she just wanted to get him to take him out, get him out of here, because he was the one that was trying to take down Marvin. So I think it probably served its purpose. And I don't know if they're going to revisit it again with Unique, because again, like you said, I don't know how they would have him find this information out. They are very creative with what they can do, but I just don't know. So my answer is, I think we got our answer in this episode. It served its purpose for this episode to further explain why she needed to take out Howard, but I don't know where they go beyond this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be foreshadowing that she's going to take out Unique as well, or I don't know. But but Dana, what was your thoughts on this whole thing?
Okay, so a couple things. And also we have to go back to the finale. I thought the questioning with the doctor was very interesting. At first I was like, oh, she's being racist. Look at how she views black people. And then I realized it was cultural. It didn't have to do with race, but cultural. Remember in the finale how everyone was questioning um, Raquel and her movements and how she is able to process when things are overwhelming for her? She says, you move up, you get yourself up, you move on. You don't sit and reflect. I'm not Lulu. Lulu is unable to do that. See me, I'm better because I'm able to compartmentalize everything that what I'm going on. I don't have time to grieve. I don't have time to be angry. I don't have time to do this and this and this. I have to get up every day and get to work. That is essentially the same conversation that she told to that white lady. Remember, the conversation that she had also was with that black man. This is a cultural difference. When you are not of that environment in which Raquel is within, you're not going to understand how you process anger, grief, or any other kind of emotion. You, as an outsider, may be, oh, well, she just doesn't see that. She shuts down. I think that Raquel is able to recognize that. But because there are so many things going on in her life, because she was forced to be a mother while also being a child herself, because she dealt with men who were far older than her and had no business being with her, that changed how she moved, how she shifted. So when it gave to that little tiny thing of, I've had an abortion before many years ago, I'm going to assume it was probably, I don't know the time period, probably before Kanan, which means she was a much younger teenager than when she had him with Howard. So you see how that a cultural understanding. So if you're from that environment, you understand where she's at. Oh no, she's going through her own thing, but she's not, she's not crazy. She's not this. She's not incapable. She's very capable. This is how she makes her capability, is by able to get up every morning and know I don't have time to wallow. Is that positive? No. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's a positive way to go about life at all. But because of where she's at, she's not able to sit down and reflect about her wants and her needs and what is it like to be normal. We saw her try to be normal, and she suffered, and she was in pain, and she was bored. I was bored for her because that's not her life. So you see the cultural difference. It's not black or white. You could take a same white girl and put her in that environment, most likely, and you could probably get the same outcome. So I just wanted to make that emphasis. Now, going back with your original question of what will the baby girl jukebox will do with this information? Nothing. Why? She's a keeper of secrets with that whole family. Kanan runs to her and tells her the business. Raquel runs to her and tells her the business. Sometimes Marvin, oh, not so much. He's just opening up a little bit. We saw the conversations, that he's having, but not really. I feel that he views her more as a child in a child's place, as opposed to Marvin, where we've seen that father-daughter relationship cross too many boundaries. But even when things were happening, but Marvin did apologize for not being able to make the audition. I think it was Marvin. Was it Lulu? It was Lulu. No, it was Marvin. Marvin was able to apologize, and you see that they're working on their relationship. That girl has too many secrets that she knows about her family, but one thing about her, for this moment, because we all know that changes in the original when she's older and she kills Kate. No, she tries to kill Tariq. That whole thing is like, oh, she crosses all the boundaries there. But right now, I think she appreciates and loves the fact that people can come to her and trust her. And remember when Kanan no longer opened up to her? She ran to Raquel. Kanan's not opening up to me anymore. It made her feel completely distant. It hurt her feelings. So there's no reason for her to tell anything about the baby. What would that serve? She doesn't even know Unique is alive. And when she sees him alive, when we still that picture, hi, Unique, you're alive. You had a baby, but Raquel killed it. What kind of conversation starter is that? Come on. And she loves Raquel way more than she loves Unique. Why would you tell the man that baby no longer exists? First, he doesn't even know that the baby existed. Oh, it no longer exists. You have no say. Oh, it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I don't see Jukebox being the ones who kind of give that information out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, like to see what significance this plays to the story. Like her being pregnant and going through the abortion. Obviously, it gave the context for Howard as well, which was really good. So yeah, but it's interesting. Because that is a big deal, and obviously they went back 3 months. We didn't know before that she was pregnant. And I like how they set it up as well with her, with showing the symptoms, like she had these cravings and everything like that. So that was very well done with that. But yeah, I want to see some more thoughts on how the people see that playing out. So definitely leave comments. Go ahead, Dana.
Did y'all Did y'all figure out she was hungry when that she was pregnant when she said I was hungry? Because I figured that out in a second because Raquel don't eat like that.
Yeah,
So I'm like, why are you
that's
hungry,
Marvin.
girl?
Marvin's the only one who eats.
Marvin,
Yeah.
like, why are you hungry? Girl, are you fine? Oh, you pregnant? So yeah, that was interesting.
And by the way, I just want to give a shout out to London Brown. Yeah, man. Anytime I see Marvin eating, it don't matter where he's at, he's gonna be eating something. So I think that's pretty hilarious.
It's got to the point where I'm like starting to try and guess what he's going to be eating. Like if he's in the car, it's going to be crisps. You guys call them chips, or peanuts or something like that. Like, but yeah, it's funny that he's always eating.
Speaking of food, rest in peace to Honey Nut Cheerios. Ronnie, we miss you.
Unique needs to bring it back. Like, he needs to start eating the Cheerios. But yeah, let's see what else. So, do you guys have any thoughts on like Jessica's return? Like, what did you think of it, and how do you think it might impact Lulu and maybe even Famous's story in this season? If we see Famous again, I don't know, but yeah, what do you guys think of her returning? Dana, you first.
Can I say something? I didn't remember who she was. I thought she was the singer, and then I was like, oh, the singer, but then the singer got shot up, and she did. So I don't know who she is.
Yeah, it's Famous's sister.
That was Famous's sister. See? Okay. Here's this. What if Famous does what the police says, and then he goes with his sister, because this is too much for anybody to handle. And he's like, the streets need a body, but it's not going to be mine. So he goes back to California with his sister. And that way, the mama doesn't have to always constantly worry and be annoying and do stupid things like, let me turn in the gun. So it works that way. Or even if he says, no, I'm not going to do it, at night, he sneaks in and goes off with his sister and goes to California and evades the police. Famous lives. See, Famous ends up having last words, but not Stefano.
Yeah, that is interesting because she wouldn't come back to New York and not try to see Famous. So
and then Lulu.
Yeah.
Oh, Lulu, like my mom said, either die, go to prison, or find your happiness in California. But you really don't stay in New York.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but Richard, you were going to say something.
Lulu representing New York till he dies, literally. I just want to brace people emotionally. I don't think that Lou makes it to Los Angeles. It's going to be one of those situations where he gets caught up with all this stuff happening with Unique and the family drama that he probably gets taken out before he gets a chance. And they're probably going to make it very dramatic where he has at the very last minute, hey, I got this flight to Los Angeles, and then I don't make the flight, and then he gets taken out. I think that's where they're going with this. The other thing I find very interesting about Jessica's return, she asked him, so did you hear about what happened with Crown Camacho? We know as viewers what happened to Crown Camacho because Lulu is the one that took him out. So I would like to know if at some point she gets suspicious that he has something to do with that. That may be a problem for Lulu. So we have to see where things go. I will say we didn't see her reaction to her brother getting getting potentially arrested. That is, I kind of feel like, because she looks at Lulu as the one that was supposed to be taking care of her brother while she was gone. So she might not feel too happy about that in the next episode. We have to see where they go with the storyline. But I will just say this: Jessica's return to the show. I know Gary is a huge fan of the character, but this is not good news for Lulu. And obviously that whole line about, oh, I miss you. Of course. But in the trailer, we saw Lulu with another woman, okay? We need to see who that other woman was. So stay tuned.
That's not fair. That is not fair at all. You can't be beholden to somebody and they all in California living their best life. You get yourself another woman and you get treated right. She abandoned you. So you find your happiness in someone else's hole.
Yeah, and
Oh,
plus she was sleeping with Crown Camacho, so I mean, you know,
Exactly. Yes.
he's justified. So
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah, that's interesting. You know, I wasn't expecting to see her in this episode, so that's cool. Um, and yeah, I guess any do you guys have any other predictions at all for this season? You know, as a whole, um, and where it might go. Now, to me, I mean, it kind of looks like this is Kanan's kind of path to the top. So I do see a huge consequential kind of like falling out between him and his mother. I think by the end of this season he's going to fully break free of her, and they're going to be kind of maybe at odds going into season 5. Now, obviously their relationship has already been kind of fractured, and they've kind of already been, you know, back and forth with talking to each other and not talking to each other. But I feel like it's going to reach kind of a climax point by the end of the season, and it's going to be like really fractured to the point almost of no return. And it kind of seems like, you know, they're just kind of setting up Kanan really becoming the Kanan that we know, and kind of being the top dog or the top boy, as we would say over here. So I think that that's kind of his pathway. Um, and yeah, I had more to say, but go ahead, Dana, because I know you had something. You were going to say something.
okay, so I'm trying to find out because I'm going back in the trailer in my mind, Richard, that we did. Remember how it was Pops and Snaps, whatever Crackle, who said to Kanan, "Who is it that you want to be?" Right? He was sitting down with them. It was like a Godfather situationship where it was like, "My son, who do you want to be in life?" And so the whole thing was, I felt that this is when Kanan felt that he couldn't trust his mother anymore. I was wondering if that Koalition of Howard was the tipping point of when he feels that he can't trust his mother anymore, and he ends up running to Snaps and Pops. So to me, that stuck out, going back on how they arranged that. Now again, editing is a whole nother thing, and it may be a whole completely different thing, but that's my perspective of that thing. And then also, what I wanted to mention quickly was, if we're going to be one of those people who are like, we should, you know, the show puts in things that we shouldn't forget. Let's go back to the jungle monkey scene when they was in was it Fort Greene? I feel like it was Fort Greene. I'm not sure. But the point is, I'm saying is, this was the moment that I thought, okay, homeboy Marvin is gonna take out the two goons, or was it 2 or 3 of them? Leave whatchamaface alone, and then that's when we get the threatation of your life. And that's when he's like, I'm gonna be a better man for my wife because I love her all of a sudden. But that's not what happened. He instead let them live. So I'm wondering, because on both occasions, everyone saw Marvin's face. And remember, they all have connections to Stefano. Where is Marvin hanging out now? With Stefano. So I'm wondering if it's going to be like, oh, gabagoo scene where you come in and Stefano was going up, and then you see Marvin, and you're able to put 2 and 2 together. And then that's how Stefano is also made. And remember, he said there are rules to this game where I can't exactly cross the line and do this, but I'm going to hire you because you can. You're not related to anybody. I'm going to work in the shadows. So then does that also put Stefano into the danger zone when it comes to the Godfather family? And so when we saw that shotgun, like, boom, remember when he said famous last words? Maybe he wasn't talking to Unique. Maybe he was talking to the big upper echelons of the Godfatherness that come and kill him because he overplayed his hand in dealing with the gabagoos. Sorry, not the right term, but the Italians of the Queens and the mobster people who wanted to be racist. That's just what I'm wondering. That's it.
No, that's an excellent point, because yeah, I do see there could be some retaliation there for Stefano if he's like, because he's kind of playing dirty, you know, he's kind of manipulating his people a little bit. So if they do any kind of investigation or follow up regarding Marvin, you know, and find out that he's actually, you know, meeting with Stefano and stuff like that, that could be bad for both Stefano and Marvin. Like, you know, whether they decide to, you know, attack Marvin or basically, you know, come for Stefano. So that's a good point. They could really stir up some drama with the mob in the season, you know. So I want to see what the aftermath of that is, because you made a good point. They did see his face, so you know, it's not hard for them to figure out who this guy is, you know. So yeah, yeah, good point. How about you, Richard? Any other predictions for this season?
Let me start by saying that's an excellent point by Dana. I know that Stefano really liked Marvin's job last season. We all were laughing at that little job that Marvin pulled with the mail, you know, dressed up as a mailman. That was great. But again, he could be seen. His face was clear. There wasn't no disguise. So I definitely want to see where they're going with that. Because, yeah, I thought the same. When I saw those two guys that came out there with the guy that's the husband, I said, well, yeah, this is not good for Marvin. You know, he can probably he would probably try to kill them. But again, that husband is a made man. So that's important, because they said that multiple times. Stefano told him multiple times he's a made man. So see where they're going with that. I look forward to seeing how Kanan evolved as a character this season. Obviously, that season trailer emphasizes that this is his time to determine who he wants to be. And it runs parallel to Jukebox, because she also is entering into what will be her final year of school. She has to make a decision as to whether or not she's going to pursue this music thing full time or join the army. So it's a perfect parallel. That's why I said both characters I expect to go through a lot of changes this season. Definitely want to see what happens with the rest of the family, with Raquel. And of course, Unique. You know, I think that's the real main highlight of the season, is to see how far they take this thing with Unique. Now that he is a much more darker version of the character that people have wanted to see, I do want to see how far they go with that. One last thing I do want to mention. This is a bit of an Easter egg. Maybe it means nothing at all. I'm just curious. You both your opinion as well as people listening to this show. Do you think it was anything at all when they had the shot of Unique sitting on the couch watching Rock, that TV show Rock? Do you think that means anything, or is that just, no, they just want to reference the time period, or it doesn't mean anything at all? That's why I wanted to ask that question.
That's an interesting question. So you mean when Unique was watching the show, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I know when it comes to a certain character called Breeze,
yes,
they did refer to, I think it was in the original Power, they referred to him as watching, he would watch, was it Jeopardy or something?
Yeah, Jeopardy. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're trying to play with us, like, and trying to trick us into thinking maybe Unique ends up becoming Breeze. Because see, this is a big topic of debate here, because it's like Unique becoming Breeze. I guess at this point they could make it make sense, because he kind of died almost and now he's being reborn. So in that sense, maybe he could turn into Breeze and become like a whole new character and stuff. But you know, so there's people who feel like as well, like, you can't just rename a significant character like that, because we know him as Unique. So it's like, you know, he should stay Unique. Like he should see out, you know, his full role as Unique and not become a new character. But I mean, I don't know. There's two ways to look at it. I personally feel like Breeze is probably another character just because of the age. Because the way they talk about Breeze in original Power, it makes it seem like he was more their kind of age range, and Unique seems like he's a bit significantly older than Kanan. I think like maybe 10 years older or something like that. So I would think that Breeze is closer in age to Kanan, like maybe a couple years older or a few years older or something like that. So I don't know. I still feel like Breeze is going to end up being a different character. But, you know, if I'm thinking about stars and creative choices, it could be a situation where they wasn't they wasn't originally planning to make Unique Breeze, but because of the popularity of the character, they might be like, what if we just make him Breeze? You know, what if we, kind of retcon it a bit and make him Breeze and make him team up with Kanan and him be the one to kind of, be Breeze. So I could see it from that point, like they might end up doing that. And yeah, like this whole TV show, him watching the TV and stuff, it could be some foreshadowing, like because he wasn't watching Jeopardy, but maybe he's watching he picks up this habit of watching the TV, and then Jeopardy happens to come on one day, and he's like, he just starts watching it. But yeah, that's an interesting point there, Richard. And I want to see what the people think of that one, because they're clearly teasing this whole Breeze thing a lot, especially with Unique. So I want to see what the people think. But Dana, any thoughts on that?
Okay. So I was like looking up like what is rock, because I'm like, that's from a time. And then I was like, okay, so he was a garbage man, a regular garbage man who had a family and just struggled to balance, basic life. Right? And I'm trying to remember, was there any kind of significance to a garbage man that was in the show where, well, like, oh, here's a direct reference to this TV show. But I couldn't find anything like that, because I don't recall anyone in the Power, either the Power series or the Power, of this TV show focusing on a garbage man, not even Kanan's like grandfather. I don't believe that they even mentioned that as well. Like, oh, he was a garbage man in a former life. I mean, he was someone who I think did odds and ends, but he was never really a garbage man. And when Jukebox was kind of lying about her father, I don't recall her ever saying, "Oh, he was a garbage man." He was just saying, like, "Oh, he just does things." A couple of things. I still kind of believe that Breeze is unique, and I say that because no one knows that he's alive. So if you're trying to, okay, what we do know, at least from the trailers, we can surmise that someone is going on a killing rampage. Obviously, people don't know that Unique is alive. If Kanan, going by that picture, is to say he knows that he is alive, and he says, "Oh, I'm not Unique anymore. I'm Breeze, because I'm like a breeze in the wind," something corny like that. I don't know. Wouldn't then Kanan, because remember, he states in the original Power that is, he's under his tutelage. He is someone who mentors him. He is someone who knows him. So therefore, you have your name change. Kanan Stark is not Kanan Stark, always. Raquel, or even Jukebox. Remember how Jukebox is Jukebox to some, but she's Laverne to others? Remember that white man? I'm not calling you Jukebox. What's your name, girl? And he calls her Laverne. And it's kind of a friendliness to that name, Laverne. Kind of like, ooh, like home. People walk around with multiple names all the time. Look at the Wu-Tang Clan thing. They got about 10 different names with all of them. So Unique can be Breeze, because now in his new life, he is no longer Unique. He's a breeze in the wind, and all these killations that are happening, we don't know who's doing it. Who is this mentor that is now coming in all of a sudden to talk to Kanan? Does Pops and Snaps know? Obviously not. We know they don't know. So that's why I say that man ends up becoming Breeze. And he says very clearly, what does the doctor say? He is a different version than who he was. He gave this situationship about what happened with the dog. The dog had the exact same condition as Unique does. All of a sudden, this nice little cute dog became aggressive, bit up everybody to the point where we had to put him down. How does Unique or Breeze die? He is put down, right? Ghost doesn't know who he is. Tommy doesn't know who he is. Let's go about with Origin, because they did announce Origin. He doesn't know him as Unique. They know him as Breeze. I rest my case. That is Breeze. To add in somebody now who's going to have such a strong impact on him, where I'm going to surmise that season 6 is the final of the whole Ghost situationship. Not Ghost, the Kanan show, right? If we go in season 6, you're going to have someone all big and strong and powerful who actually becomes the mentor, who shapes Kanan's entire life, or why we get the psychopath that we get today. You think that's going to be Pookie down the street who's randomly named Breeze? Or is that going to be someone named Unique, who is part of his life, who is embedded in his childhood? I think that is Breeze. That's just what I have to say about that. He's a new man. He kept saying, I never felt more alive than ever. He's the psychopath that I always wanted. And then Breeze, I trust. Who's Unique? I don't know this man. He Breeze. Even Chris Red was like, I don't know who this is. I'm scared. So that's it. That's all I have to say. Hi, Breeze.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even argue you down that much because they could retcon it that way. They could, just decide to make Unique, Breeze. And how they've done it now, it could make sense because he's born again almost, so that could be a thing, Now, if you're asking my preference, I would prefer Breeze be D-Wiz's brother because they've kind of teased that before where D-Wiz's brother was mentioned and Lulu and Raquel kind of look at each other, like, oh, not him. They kind of give each other a look like. So I would think that would be something interesting, but to make him Breeze. But who knows? Like, this is the biggest mystery in Power that we have. So, this is like who shot JR, like, or something. So, go ahead, Richard. You wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I just gonna make one quick point. I agree with what both you and Dana said. I will say this for your predictions. One thing I will say, regardless of who Breeze is, whether or not it's Unique or D-Wiz's brother, I guarantee you what they're going to do, to go to your point, Gary, if they kill off a character like Marvin, which we expect to happen, Breeze will be introduced shortly thereafter because that will keep the show interesting to see who is this character. Because I'm telling you, when Marvin goes, people are not going to be happy about that. When that character goes out, they've made him lovable, likable for like all 4 seasons. So I anticipate when they take out an important character like that, that's when they'll introduce this other character to, or they will confirm that this is Breeze now because they know people are waiting to see who this Breeze character is. And Sasha Penn is very intelligent because he has been teasing this character since last season. So, yes, that's probably going to be what happens, but we'll have to wait and see. Go ahead, Dana.
Marvin, see, and this is what you can argue with why I don't like foreshadowing so much. Marvin was evil. Remember when he was beating down his daughter? I was like, oh. And then he was like, I'm understanding and I'm trusting, and I'm like, yay. That transformation and that change. He was not always that great. And how he's leading his life is not always that great. So just because you decide to redeem yourself in the last few years of your possible life, should we then still erase everything that you have done before then? So therefore, for me, and my justification of why I'm okay with you to go, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to say, hey, you got to live best lives. You got to be a tyrant, and you also got to be redeemable, where everybody loved you. So I'm okay if you go. You live the best of both worlds. Yeah, you. I'm okay with him dying. But kind of going back to the whole situation with Breeze, this goes back with a whole other thing. So remember that what is it? Tommy, was it Kanan? I forgot who it was, but in the original Power, somebody was named Slim. Remember Slim? Remember who Slim actually really was? Remember how they took on different monikers of names? Breeze, I'm Unique. There you go. Method Man, what is his name? Clifford Reynolds or something? That's his government name. And then what is his Wu-Tang name? I don't know his Wu-Tang name because it's too many names. I don't know. Fifi. Point is, all those names, same person, but they represent a different moniker. When you speak to, say, Method Man, you're not going to get the same person as if you're going to speak to whatever his government name is. When his mama's speaking to him, it's much different than when a fan speaks to him. So it's a different persona, which is why I still say Unique is Breeze. That's it. Unique is dead. It's officially Breeze. We're going to see that.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, because yeah, I mean, they can make it make sense if they want to. Joey Badass, he's a very popular character, as unique and stuff. So I understand the appeal of wanting to keep him around. Um, so I really wouldn't be shocked if they decide to make him Breeze. But I still think it might be somebody else, but I just wouldn't be shocked if it is unique. But yeah, um, that's going to be it for now. But please do get to some of your final thoughts before we officially end it off here. So yeah, Richard, any final thoughts?
Fantastic episode. Glad the season is back and looking forward to hearing everybody's thoughts as well as recapping the upcoming episodes.
Indeed, absolutely. Dana, any final thoughts?
I have a question for the audience, and everybody can answer this if they don't want to. For the audience, what I wanted to know is, you know how the end was like, and this is why you don't know everything in life. I wanted to know, would you prefer to know everything in your life where everybody's going to move, everybody's thoughts, everybody's perspectives, and everyone's ideas? Or would you rather just like to stay in your own lane and stay in your own zone and not know what's going to happen next? So therefore, it could be a great surprise or a terrible hurt or whatever it is. Those emotions are natural. And by not knowing everything all at once, you don't become so overwhelmed. You're able to live in bliss. And what do they say about bliss? Ignorance is bliss. Do you prefer that ignorance?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you brought that up because I had a similar kind of conversation today with shouts to Earthbender Charlie, who he's someone we kind of know from Coalition history and stuff. But yeah, shouts to him. Like we was just having a kind of discussion while he was like streaming earlier, and like we was talking about like what I think I brought up that I kind of miss before the internet age where we was just living in blissful ignorance kind of thing, because it's like having all the information now can be overwhelming. Like it's a little too much. Like it's very, it can overload your brain knowing too much. So like to your point there, yeah, I think I would like it's a cool superpower to be able to know everything, to see what everyone's thinking, to see what everyone's going to do and all that stuff. And there are people who live that way, trying to always know what this person's doing, what this person's thinking, trying to be like 5 steps ahead. That's kind of what 50 Cent kind of lives like that. Like he kind of plays chess, like he follows the 48 laws of power and all that stuff. Like but me personally, like I feel like I'm very easily overwhelmed by too much information. While it is good to have information, I like it to be controlled, like, when as and when I kind of need it kind of thing, but I don't want too much information at once. So I think I would find that power very overwhelming, like to know everything. So but yeah, that's an interesting question that you raised there. So I want to see more thoughts on that. But where did that come from? Did that literally just come from that line that 50 said at the end? Like is
Yeah,
that what?
no. My whole when I was taking the notes and I don't know where my notebook went, I think it fell on the floor
It,
somewhere. It's hiding from
like
me. Yeah, I open it up too much. It's how they always being open. But yes, no, the very last line in the series is this. It says, oh Jesus. It says, flash forward to the present. And it says, is it better that way? Because, okay, so he said, see, you thought you knew everything, but you don't. Is it better that way? Because if you knew everything, you knew too much. You know how many times you've been lied to. You
hmm,
know how many times you lied to yourself. You know how many times you came close to dying and how many times you almost made somebody die. So it's like looking back on, did you want to know that information? Like it worked
but
for this episode, but even when you still are missing information, you miss key points. And this is how uniquely Breezy is going to operate this season, which could cause everyone to be in danger when they don't have to be. So
that's a
I
good
just
point.
I just have one comment that's an excellent question. And to answer your question directly, I wouldn't want to know everything, but I do want to know how this 50 Cent and Big Meat beef ends. So there you go. Because I had to bring it right back. You mentioned 50 Cent, yeah, because there's just a whole bunch of mess and ridiculousness. So yeah, I want to know how that ends.
Yeah, that's a very serious situation because it involves a lot of like street stuff. So yeah, I am kind of that one kind of makes me a bit anxious, that whole beef. But yeah, it's interesting to follow it, like just to see what's going on. But yeah, that is going to be it. We will be back for episode 2. So yes, but it feels good to be back, covering Raising Kanan. This is legit my favorite show in the Power universe right now. So yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I hope everybody continues to enjoy this show and also, Raising Kanan. Definitely leave your comments, let us know what you thought. Definitely answer Dana's question as well, because it's a very thought-provoking one. But yeah, until next week, everybody take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and we'll see you then. Peace.